Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. There's a kirtan going on somewhere. In the kitchen, maybe. All right, if it gets, yeah, go see if you. Okay. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 22nd day of May 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying chapter 16, the divine and demoniac natures, and we're on text 18, which is on page 632. Okay, so we do word by words and then we chant. Can you chant verses?
I never have.
You never have. Okay. All right. Ahankaram, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham, cha, sankshitaha, Mam Atma Padadeheshu Pradvishanto Pyasuyakaha. Chapter text 18 on 632. Okay. Okay, Jesse, page 632. There he is. Page 632. Okay. Ahankaram balang darpam kamam krodham cha sankshitaha. Try it again. Kamam krodham cha sankshitaha. Mam atma paradeheshu pradvishanto visuyakaha. Ahankaram balang darpam kamam krodham cha sankshitaha. Mam atma paradeheshu pradvishanto visuyakaha. Ahankaram balang darpam kamam krodham cha sankshitaha. Mam atma paradeheshu pradvishanto visuyakaha. Jalatala. Ahankaram balang darpam kamam krodham cha sankshitaha. Mam atma paradeheshu pradvishanto visuyakaha. All right, I'll read the word by words. Page 632. 632. All right, word by word. Ahankaram, false ego. Balam, strength. Darpam, pride. Kamam, lust. Krodham, anger. Cha, also. Sankshitaha, having taken shelter of. Mam, me. Atma, in their own. Pada, and in other. Deheshu, bodies. Pradvishantaha, blaspheming. Abhyasuyakaha, envious. Translation. He's referring to the demons, demonic, those of demonic mentality. Krishna is describing them. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Purport. A demoniac person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self, as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead, because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own power. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So first of all, Srila Prabhupada's use of the word envious is not exactly the way it's always used by us. Envious usually means you're jealous of someone. They have something you want it. That's envy. Envious, but in the broader sense, as Prabhupada learned how to use the word in the early 20th century in Scottish Church College in Calcutta, it includes simply bearing malice. How can you be envious of the scriptures? Do they have something you want? No, but you hate them because they're trying to restrict you. They're trying to give orders that you should do this, don't do that, do that. So it means that they reject them, and anyone who's trying to cite them as authority, they're envious of them also. So just a note on that, because that word is used again and again here. So this is bewildered by false ego. The first thing is the false ego. The false ego is the false sense of self. Our whole life in the material world is based on the false ego, the false sense of self. Namely, that we're convinced that we're this body. What else could we be? You know, if the police stop you in the car, you run a red light or something. First thing is license and registration. And what's on that license? It confirms that yes, you're legal to drive this car. There's your picture, your address, your age, your hair color, whatever it is. All related to the body, where the body lives, what the color of it, like that. So that's commonly what we identify with as who am I? I'm a certain age, certain race, speak a certain language, nationality, whatever it is. It all pertains to the body. And in the first lesson of this Bhagavad Gita, taught in the second chapter by Krishna, is that we're not the body. That we are the soul or spirit within the body. And that we never die and we're never born. Now clearly that doesn't pertain to the body. The body is famously born, lives for some time, degenerates, gets old, whatever, and dies and passes away. So there's a very clear distinction between the self, the soul, the consciousness, and the body. We are consciousness. And along with that, naturally comes the concept of transmigration. That we've had many other lives in previous bodies, not all of them human by any means. Some of them superhuman, but whatever they are, we forgot them. Unless there's anyone here who remembers. Does anyone remember anything? I don't.
That's the subtle body.
The subtle body is not, no, the subtle body is also material. That's the mind and the intelligence. You're not your mind either, and you're not your intelligence. This is called the spiritual body, okay, which we can't access right now. So, but the idea is that we go life after life, especially, it's not just humans, anything that shows consciousness, a little ant or these poor trees, you know, it's a wonderful decoration in San Diego. They're famous for these fake palm trees, right? And they're standing there. Of course, their consciousness is rudimentary, but they're alive. They're trees, you know? So what kind of life is that? They're barely self-aware that they exist, you know? And so it's punishment. It's punishment for something that they've done in the human form of life, and sinful, they may have been demons, whatever, and you get covered. Not forever, though. Then you gradually, eventually all these trees will die, and you'll come up to a next, maybe another plant, maybe a rose bush, whatever, eventually into the animal species, and then again to the human form of life. Now, the human form of life is unique, because we can become self-aware. We have a big brain, and we can hear from a high authority about what the real goal of the whole life is. Otherwise, it devolves into, whatever feels good for the senses and for my ego and all kinds of things like that. Transient. Things which ultimately bring pain. And here's one of my favorite verses. I haven't chanted in a while. From the Bhagavad Gita. You all have Bhagavad Gita's 5th chapter, text number 20, is it? I think it's right in there. Let's see. Not 20, but 22. Yehi sangs is on page 249. Yehi sangs parjaja boga dukkha yonaya evate. Adyantamantang konteya teshu ramate buddha. Now this translation is going to be revised. What it means is the pleasures that are due to the contact with the material senses are sources of misery. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the intelligent persons do not delight in them. Now those senses, those pleasures are basically what we know as pleasure. Not just the gross senses, but the mind is also a sense. There are various permutations, combinations, depending what mode you're in, what gives you pleasure. There's certain people who take pleasure in giving pain to others. We don't want to be like that. But the point is that all of these pleasures are the source of your suffering. And either in this life or the next life. The main sufferings are this birth, old age, disease, and death. I like to cite them in the order that they generally occur. Birth, old age, accompanied by disease, eventually death. Again and again, around and around. This is called the wheel of samsara. Now, there's also another division, the threefold miseries, it's called. Now, Krishna has certified this world as dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This world, without Krishna consciousness, just ordinary material life, is an abode of unhappiness. And it's temporary. Even if you find a place, okay, I can live with it, you can't live with it. Wherever situation you're in, eventually you're going to get kicked out into your next life. So that's another misery. So anyway, there are difficulties caused by our own body and mind. You can be born with a disease, congenital disease, or you can develop some psychological problem or some trauma that lives with you, PTSD. So in that sense, your own mind and body is giving you so much trouble. It's called adhyatmic miseries. Then there are a whole bunch of miseries from other living beings, oftentimes human beings, but not always. We had our pandemic. It's still on, and not nearly as ferociously, but it's still going on in certain corners of the world. So that's some living entity that's like, is it alive? I mean, do we consider the virus as living beings, But it's certainly something else that's giving us trouble. And then there's the big category of the divas, adidivic misery. Earthquakes, right? Huge storms, which are getting worse because of climate change. So there's a certain bleeding over. Because you can say, well, we're having all these worse storms and things, they're worse than ever, partially because of what human beings do. Anthropogenic climate change, do we all believe in that? We're pouring out all the greenhouse gases. So are the worst storms, are they completely simply adidivic, or they're also partially caused by human beings? But one way or another, one or more of these difficulties is giving us trouble. And one of the troubles is, you may not be suffering now, but you're worrying about it, that you'll suffer. That in itself is a suffering, the anxiety. So this is what life is in the material world. There are some pleasures, there's no doubt about it. But they come and they go, and the difficulties are more severe than the pleasures. And the worst difficulty is it's all temporary, and you have to go again. So the whole idea is, why don't we use this human form of life to try to end this sojourn in the material world, which is fraught with all these difficulties? So this chapter is about those who misuse the human form of life, mostly. At the beginning he gave a wonderful list of saintly qualities, very important. That's why he says divine and demoniac. But the bulk of the chapter is devoted to the demonic way of life. And here he gives, beginning with ahankaram, this false ego, false sense of self. Balam darpam. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, this is where the guys sit on the other side. You're welcome. And we have your book and everything is there. So false ego, false sense of self, physical strength, darpam is pride, anger, krodam, lust, kamam, they take shelter of all these. In other words, they may actually cultivate these qualities, but they characterize a personality who is dangerous, who is not happy, who is demonic. And mamamapadadeheshu, they become envious. In other words, they rail against the existence of God, oftentimes. That's also here. One of the first verses describing is asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram aparaparasambhutam kimanyat kamahoitikam. Asatyam means there's no absolute truth. There's no ultimate truth here. It's just, whatever you can garner as pleasure, just grab it, Apatishtam te, there's no foundation. And mostly, jagadahu anishwaram, they declare there's no God in control. Atheistic. Because God means that there's someone superior to them. No, I don't believe it.
Wow.
And you make a case out of it. You write books. And how did everything come about? Just by chance. Over a long time, atoms come together and gradually, there's no ultimate truth. Therefore, there's no ultimate morality. There's no right and wrong. So that's the first thing of the demons. They don't want to admit the existence of God. Now, in our books, here we find most of the demons being described. This is one small chapter in a very long book called the Mahabharata. But there's plenty of demons there. But in the Bhagavatam, which is, of course, quite a lengthy book also, 18,000 verses, many demons appear. Hiranyakashipu, he was Prahlad Maharaj's father. Now, he has an interesting background because he was in the spiritual world, but he offended the devotees, the Kumaras, and they cursed them to become demons for 3 births. So they became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The names are also important. Hiranyaksha means always looking for gold, very greedy. And that was the older brother, I think. So he was killed by Krishna in the form of a boar. There's a long story about that. And then Hiranyakashipu, he was enraged by that, and he regarded God as his arch enemy. And what happens? I won't go through the whole story, but his son turns out to be a great devotee. He was instructed while in the womb, so no one knew that he was a devotee until he came out and started preaching to his father. You can imagine, as far as this huge demon, he conquered the whole universe, very powerful. And here's this delicate little 5-year-old boy, and he's hoping that he'll be trained to be the next leader of the demons. So there's the whole thing about his schooling and everything. Oh, my dear son Prahlad, what did you learn today? What's the best thing you learned today? This is his first interaction described. Huh?
Wait, who is that?
With his father, yeah. It's the first one that's recorded in the Bhagavatam. So Prahlad says, he doesn't call him father. He says, "Oh, best of the demons, Asuryabhaya. Tat sadhu manye asudavarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat hit vatmapatam griyamanda kupam vanam gadoyad harimashriyeta." Now, Hari is a name for Krishna, for God. And he's ultimately telling him the best thing you can do, Father, is take shelter of Vishnu, surrender to him. He didn't want to hear that. But he begins his instruction, he says, the best thing, sadhu has different meanings. Of course, sadhu means a saint, but it also means very good, the best thing. So the best thing I heard, my dear best of the demons, Adamanye, best for whom? For the embodied souls, like us. Dehinam, who are, this very important line, sada sabudvigna diyam, whose consciousness is always disturbed by being in the material world. Why? Asadgrahat. Because we're putting our faith and our trust and our hope in the impermanent, beginning with this body. We know it's going to pass away, but we put that out of our mind and we think, oh, I'm strong now, I'm intelligent, I can really manipulate it. So that's called asadgrahat, and it always brings anxiety. Because we know that whatever situation we're in is going to pass away. All right, I got it together. I've got my job. My health is in good shape. I got a good mate, and I'm living in Pacific Beach. I can go to the beach. I can do a little surfing. I got it made, But that's just giving you the illusion that this is you got it made. Yeah, okay, for a little while, a few months, maybe a few years, but it just doesn't last. The world is too crazy now, and it always has been that way. So that's what the demons do. They don't want to admit that they're not in control, that they can't control their fate, and but that's the nature. So sadasamudvignadeyam. So the consciousness or the intelligence is always disturbed, because in the back of the mind we know that that I don't have it under control. Anything can happen. Danger is here. So therefore he says, what to do about this? So therefore Prahlad has the instruction. He says, hit vatmapatam. Give up your materialistic life, Father. Materialistic household life, whatever it is. Hit vatmapatam. Atmapatam means that which impedes the progress of the soul. Griyam andakupam, the blind well of materialistic family life. The blind well means you're in the well, you don't even know you're in a well, and you can't get out. But so you can give it up with intelligence. And then what do I do? Vanam gato, go to the forest, and it's to be common to go to Vrindavan, and take shelter of Krishna, of God. This is the original speaking truth to power. Here's this 5-year-old delicate boy who was fearless because he was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and God. He's the emblem, the acharya for remembrance. So he's always feeling completely protected, even though he's, And his father, he doesn't blame him, he blames the teachers. He looks, there's the teachers sitting there, hoping that he'll say something. And they said, we didn't teach him that, because he was instructed in the womb by Narada Muni. It was a secret, So, and don't worry, he's just a boy, we'll set him straight, but they can't set him straight. Whenever he's alone with his mates, his classmates, and it describes the teachers go to lunch, he says, oh, now's my chance, I'll preach to them. So now he's become seditious. He's undermining the whole kingdom, because all the young boys are not going to be demons, they're going to be devotees. So that's it. His father tells his henchmen, okay, kill him. Kill the boy. They can't kill him. They try to crush him under the elephants, to cut him to pieces, poison him, burn him, whatever it is. He was completely protected by Krishna, because he was totally relied on him and completely absorbed. So finally what happens is that his father says, I'll kill you myself. And so where is this God that you've been talking about? You say he's everywhere. I don't see him. Is he in this pillar that I'm looking at? He's in the palace, He's got his sword out and everything. He says, yes, Father. He said, where did you get your strength from? Because it's very powerful, the defense. He tried to kill him in all the way. He couldn't be killed. That's power. And he said, same place you do, Father, from the Lord, from Krishna. You keep talking about this Krishna. Is he everywhere? You say he's everywhere. I don't see him. Is he here in this pillar? Yes, Father, he's in the pillar. Let's see. And he punches the pillar powerfully. He's got this power that he got. And out comes Nrsingadev. Huge, half man, half lion, and he makes this huge roar and it scares him to have, And he didn't expect that, And there's a reason why he's half man, half lion, because he got all these benedictions from Brahma. When Hiranyakashipu was performing severe austerities, Brahma came down and to bless him. And he wanted to, please give me immortality. He said, I don't have it. I can't give it to you. Well, all right, don't give me immortality, but just give me the blessing that I can't be killed by any creature that you create, or any other creature that's in existence. He says, okay, I can't be killed in the sky, I can't be killed in the earth, I can't be killed on the water. Fine, you got it. I can't be killed by any weapons. Good, we're good. No weapon will kill you. So he thought he had everything killed. I can't be killed in the day and the night. When can I be killed? I'm immortal. So he thought he was protected. So when the Nrsingadev came, he wasn't a man, he wasn't an animal, he wasn't a human, he was in between. He had no weapons. I can't pick up any weapons. Nails are not any weapons. He had to use his nails to tear him apart. He didn't kill him inside or outside, he killed him on the threshold. That's not in the sky. In other words, he satisfied all of those prerequisites, but still killed him. And Prahlad was protected. He's a Mahajan, means he's one of the 12 authorities for Dharma in the age. And he has these wonderful prayers to the Lord, and he's teaching his classmates. We have so many records. So the idea is that the demons always, and Hiranyakashipu fulfilled all of these. False ego, pride of his strength, bewildered by his lust, his anger. They're envious or malicious toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is situated in our own bodies, and blaspheme against the real religion. So, there are so many examples. I won't go through any more stories, but these, my Shiksha Guru, my editor boss over the years, Jayad Vaidaswami, he once wrote an article for Back to Guided, which you can find in this database, it's online, called "The Demons Amongst Us." It's not that just demons lived a long time ago, or in Hitler and those guys. No, so many people meet these characteristics today who walk in the street. They don't have any horns, they're not doing anything violent, but they're convinced that there's no God in control, and that we're going to make our own way in life, and it's just the sentimentalists and the fools who believe in God. So Krishna, in this chapter, we're coming up on some verses, which maybe we'll get to the first one this time. The last 3 verses of this chapter kind of sum up the lesson, and they're really important lessons about how we can not surrender to, because it's such a contaminating age, to the demonic the temptations, because it's easy to become bewildered by the material energy and come to believe that God doesn't exist, and this world is meant for our pleasure, and I just grab whatever I can get, and that's self-defeating. That leads to another birth and so much suffering. We have a great opportunity in this life. I like to quote this verse. Those who have heard the class have heard it many times, but it's ever fresh. Labdva sudurlam amidam bahusam bhavante manusham artadamanichmapi adhira. That Krishna speaks this verse in the 11th canto. You have attained the very rare human form of life after many, many births coming up. We never die. We keep passing through all these bodies. Gradually, the consciousness evolves, and we come eventually to the human form. So now we have the human form. Bahusam manusham artadam. In this human form alone, can we achieve the real goal, or the arta of life in this world, because of our superior intelligence. But like all other forms, it's temporary. So time is wasting. And they say, don't waste time. So one has to be dhira, thoughtful and sober-minded, and read, Srila Prabhupada's books, and think about this transcendental philosophy, which is coming down from Krishna directly through the disciplic succession. So what do we do with that consideration? Turnam yateta. Without wasting time, strive for the ultimate good, as long as you have your facilities. Nikshayasa. This word shreyas is very important. It means not the immediate pleasure, but the ultimate good that we can strive for. We have a reflection of this. Even the mother is raising their children, and they want to play all day. And then comes the first day of school. I don't want to go to school, you drag him, because they know that the kid has to learn. Otherwise, he'll suffer. And so this is called shreyas and preyas. Preyas is the immediate pleasure, which is always tempting us. But shreyas is the ultimate good. Get an education so you can be prosperous. Otherwise, if you're an ignoramus, you'll suffer more. That's on a material level. But the ultimate shreyas, called nikshayasa, ultimate good, is to graduate completely from bondage in this material body and to go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada's immortal phrase, indicating that's where we came from, that's where we belong. What's the advantage? Okay, here's one great contrast. In this world, as we've all experienced, there's so many pleasures to be had, say eating, the favorite food you have and snack, okay, like that. But it has a beginning and an end. You can only have so many, and then you have to stop, otherwise you're going to get sick. But in the spiritual world, there is the pleasure of eating, especially with Krishna. So many wonderful foodstuffs being cooked. But that pleasure doesn't end. The pleasure goes on because it's mediated by simply expressing love for the Lord. And that's the source of the highest pleasure. And we can read about it. It's recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto. Srila Prabhupada gave it to us in the form of his Krishna book, all the pastimes of Krishna, and how he's enjoying with his friends. Now, because it's on earth, he also is fighting with demons sometimes. That's another pleasure he has. But the whole idea is that that God, why would God be in a situation where he wants to, enjoy a little bit and then suffer? No, you enjoy all the time, right? So that's why the book called the Vedanta Sutta, which are these little aphorisms embodying the ultimate true Vedic wisdom. Vedanta means the end of knowledge. One of the sutras describing the Supreme Lord is Anandamayo Bhyasat. By his activities, we can understand he's always full of an ananda. Ananda is a different kind of pleasure than we normally have. It's unending. So that makes sense because he's God. But we're part and parcel of God. So our birthright is to also experience that ananda unendingly. But we've lost that because we're now restricted and covered by the material body, to the subtle body and also the gross material body. So what to do? The Bhakti Yoga is an ingenious science by which we can use this very body, which is the source of our misery if we don't use it right, in such a way that we can graduate from the body and not take another material body. That's called liberation in the Supreme, or it's going back to guided. Not just liberation is kind of a negative thing. It means you get free from, okay, that's great. I had this pain, now I don't have it, that's wonderful. But now you're going to live your life. It's not just you're going to, I'm finally feel pain. That's a goal in my life. You see what I'm saying? So moksha or mukti is a preliminary goal that we should have to give us impetus, realizing, whoa, this world is full of dangers and miseries, and I don't want to come back again to a material body. How do I get free of that? Bhakti yoga. But the ultimate end of bhakti yoga is the enjoying from moment to moment the pleasure of service, loving service to God, to Krishna, who is all attractive and ready to reciprocate. So that it begins with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, as we've been hearing quite often lately. Kare doshi nidarajan asiyeko mahadguna. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya mukta sangha param bhaje, which means this age of Kali, the age of quarrel and conflict. I've been politically aware for maybe 65 years of my 75 years as a kid, because of the family I grew in. We used to read the newspapers, and there's always some conflict. Either it's going on, or it's brewing, Vietnam, or this war, that war, world war threatening, and it's just, this is the age of Kali. Or locally, there's so much struggle going on. So it's an ocean of faults. That's what this verse says. But there's one very special quality of this age that you won't find in previous ages. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya mukta sangam param bhajet. Kirtan. Kirtan is, I bet it's an English word now. We'll look up it in the dictionary. It's definitely. Kirtan means congregational chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna. That just by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra together and also privately with japa, one can break one's attachment, mukta sangha, one's subtle and gross attachment to this world, and param bhajet, go to the supreme abode of God, never to return. Go back home, back to Godhead. So that's a special dispensation of this age, is that we're so unqualified. Who's going to go off to the Himalayas, and be all alone and try to control the mind and the senses and practice the pranayama? Nobody's going to do that. Maybe a handful. But for masses and millions and billions, the more they join in, the bigger the kirtan, the more powerful it is. So that was Lord Chaitanya's preaching. He said, my name will be chanted in all the towns and villages of this world. It seemed impossible. Srila Prabhupada took the impossible order of his spiritual master. I've just been reading the Lilamrita. Prabhupada in Manhattan, struggling here. He's finally made it down to the Bowery of all places, and he's living in a loft. And his roommate, who is a good prospect of learning Krishna consciousness, he took too much LSD. He went nuts. He was looking at Prabhupada, yelling and screaming at Prabhupada. He had to run out of the apartment to escape. He's on the streets of Manhattan, where to go, what to do. Called up a friend, he was able to stay there. Eventually, Krishna protected him. And then became world-traveling preacher, thousands and thousands. Now there's at least 65,000 initiated devotees in this movement. Many of them in Asia and India, like that. So, and Hare Krishna everywhere, practically you can every town and village. So we should take the process of devotional service seriously, and not, and be careful to cultivate just the opposite of all these qualities that we're reading about. All right, any questions, comments on this particular verse?
Yeah.
Okay, Babu, but use the mic.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's not much of, it's kind of his question. The picture right here, that's the one you're talking about, who devoured, like the one?
It's hard for me to see that. What does
in
it
the
look
corner.
like? It looks like Vamanadev. Oh no, that's Nrsingadev in that corner, right?
And the one he's devouring, that's that's...
He's not devouring, he's tearing him apart on his lap. That's Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah, that's what I meant, tearing apart. That's the king?
He was the king.
Yeah,
he was the emperor of the universe. He was running everything.
That's the one being teared apart?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Quite a bloody end there.
Yeah, I feel I've read also where Arjuna sees that form, and he himself he becomes scared of it. He prays, "No, God, I want to see your lovely form, where you're peaceful."
He doesn't see that form. He sees what's called the universal form, which is also scary. That's God in the form of the universe, and he said, "Who are you?" Because it's not his dear Krishna. He says, "Kalosmi loka chayakrit pravidho." I am time. I am time, come to destroy everything. And so Krishna is the time factor. He's all powerful. And he also says he's death. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham. As death, I take everything away. Isn't that what death does? It takes everything, your body, your property, your relations, it's all gone. So everybody sees God eventually. But we don't want to see God as this scary death, and everything. We want to see Krishna. We want to see the all-attractive Krishna form. So if we serve Him and learn how to love Him, then we'll be able to see Him more and more, even in this lifetime, and certainly at the time of death. I want to read one more verse, Guru, so we can discuss it. We have time, if you don't mind. So text 19. Tanaham dushata kruran Samsareshu naradaman Chapam vijasam ashukam, Chapam vijasam ashubhan Asuri shevayonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, those who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. The demoniac person may not agree to accept the supremacy of the Lord, and it is a fact that he may act according to his own whims, but his next birth will depend upon the decision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not on himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, it is stated that an individual soul after his death is put into the womb of a mother, where he gets a particular type of body under the supervision of superior power. Therefore, in the material existence, we find so many species of life, animals, insects, men, and so on. All are arranged by the superior power. They are not accidental. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Such demoniac species of men are held to be always full of lust, always violent and hateful, and always unclean. The many kinds of hunters in the jungle are considered to belong to the demoniac species of life. Now, although it says perpetually, in other places it says it's a long time, but eventually you come again to the human form of life where you get a chance. There's no such thing as eternal damnation in this philosophy. Because after all, every living entity is a son, is an offspring of God. He says that in the 14th chapter. Sarva-yonishikon murti-yaksam tasa aham bija pradakpada, means I am the seed-giving father for all. So we may suffer a lot, and in the 5th canto there's some explicit descriptions of hell and suffering there. But it's not forever. It's just, it can seem like a long, long time, but eventually you come up and you get another chance. So here we are. We've got a chance. We should. But what's really encouraging, right in the 2nd chapter, and then again in the 6th chapter, he describes in more detail, that in this endeavor of Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. Unlike material things where there's always completely loss and diminution, where you can't take it with you. But you can and do take it with you on the spiritual level. Just a little chanting, a little service, what to speak of, serious service, that goes into your eternal bank account. It's there. Because after everything you do in this world, and you contact it, there's a record of it in your own mind. You can't access it, but it's in there. And that's part of what is seen by the Lord and by higher authorities when they judge where you're going to go. Well, this person, he did a whole mornings of service here in the Hare Krishna temple in Pacific Beach. He swept the patio, he served out prasadam. He's getting the human form of life so he can continue doing that next life. That's more or less what it happens. So that's very encouraging. And the more you do, of course, the better is your destiny. The best thing is to be born, if you have to take birth, to be born in a family of devotees. You'll see it in the kirtan. There's a wonderful family here, Purushottam and his wife Priya, and they have this little girl named Gaurangi. Gaurangi. Gaurangi is the golden body. It's named after Gauranga, who's Lord Chaitanya. And she's growing up, learning, seeing Krishna, hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, being trained, and very beautiful. It's a very fortunate birth. So we can take that kind of birth if we are devotees, but we're not quite pure, to go back to Godhead and get another chance and get trained from birth, which is rare and wonderful. Prabhupada would often say, I have had great fortune to be born in a family like that. And, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and all our acharyas like that. So that's the idea. And here, so birth after birth, Samsareshu Naradaman. Naradaman, the lowest among men. So, Krishna is expressing here some of the anger that you see in the Shringadev. Because it's, not only are they wasting their own human life, but they're causing so much trouble for others, for the devotees, and just ordinary people. So the demons are, that's why he says he comes. I come to annihilate the demons and protect the devotees and reestablish Dharma. Dharma. Without Dharma, we're not even human. There's a verse like that. There's a book called the Hitopadesh, means instructions for the benefit of people. And it says, what is it? How's it? Ahara nidra bhayamaitanangcha samanyameta pashabi narana. Dharma hitesham adigo vishesho dharma nihina pashabi samana. That we, human beings and animals, we share certain traits. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, fearing, and which leads to defending. We all have a way of doing that. But the distinguishing quality of human being is dharma. This word is so famous, in India. What is real dharma? So without dharma, human beings are no better than animals. Two-legged animals. It's tragic. Such a rare form of life I described before, and it's not being used for the soul to progress. So Dharma, what we're practicing here is the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma of Bhakti Yoga. Dharma is defined as that activity, which brings you closer to your real nature, and especially in the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, which evinces your natural devotional service to Krishna. Sabai Pungsang Parodam Yato Bhaktir Arhokshaje. Arhokshaja is a name for God, which means the transcendental Lord who we can't perceive with our present senses and mind. It means you have to have faith. He's there. You have to hear from someone who has seen, who has experienced, yes, there's really a God. Now worship Him in this way and you'll also experience. So that Dharma which awakens our natural bhakti, which is loving devotional service to Krishna, which is defined here, because the Bhagavad Purana is the highest Purana, the highest scripture. They don't mince any words. which is characterized by selflessness, means ahoituki, no material motive, and it goes on forever. It's not once a week or even once a day. It's constant. That will bring full satisfaction to the soul. So that dharma is what we're practicing. Chanting, centered on the chanting of the holy name, doing certain things, giving other things up, like any dharma you want, any practice. I want to become an expert tennis player, right? You got to find a teacher, right? Hold this racket this way, not that way, And so there's a right way to do everything, and all of these. So you do certain things and you don't do certain things. Same thing with bhakti. Give up this meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and get up early, chant Hare Krishna, come to the temple, clean this way, don't do that. If you're ready to accept those instructions, you can make nice advancement. It's called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means practice. And that's the dharma. And then you can understand the steps in your own consciousness, in your own life. So that's what the asuras, the demons, reject. They are embracing animalistic life, We don't want to go there. Okay, so we have time for a couple little poems, and we will proceed and finish this chapter definitely this week, provided I can speak on Wednesday, because I'm getting a root canal. I don't know if I'm going to be paralyzed or whatever, I had one many years ago, but I forgot how long it took me to revive from it. But in any case, tomorrow we'll definitely resume at the same hour. So, a little poem. Now, this is very pertinent to this section of the Bhagavad Gita. This verse is spoken by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kamadinam katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jata mayana karuna nattapano prashantihi. Utsrijjayatam adiyatapate sampratam labdha buddhis tvamayata kshadanamamayam mam nayung svatmadasye. The Sanskrit language. So what he says, in how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires. For my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. And this is really, a perfect kind of focus in on what a devotee feels at a certain point, that you don't, you feel that, okay, I'm being pulled to do this like I used to do, but my intelligence is telling me, no, don't do it, because that's going to lead to problems, you see, and that's why we're here. So, but we have to serve. We're going to serve the demands. Then we have to serve the demands or the loving instructions of Krishna coming through the parampara, coming through the books. And that way we won't have to, we can resist the demands of our lower self and listen to the higher self. And that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. You read through the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is not listening to Krishna's demands. He wants him to fight. And so the whole book is spoken so that he'll surrender. And at the end he says, yes, Kadashe Vachanantaba, I will do as you say. By your mercy, my higher intelligence is now reawoken, and now I'm going to follow your orders. Even though it may be painful, but I know it's what you want, and it's for the ultimate good of everyone. So we should try to emulate that. Okay, thank you for listening, and we'll now have a nice little kirtan before the deities and prasadam. What could be better? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know how much you know, but prasadam is the sacred food that we have. There'll be some of that for free out in the patio in about half an hour. Okay, so the curtains will open at 8:15. We have plenty of time.